All right, in today's video, we're going to continue in the book, Why Men Love Bitches. And with the word bitch, we're really talking about a woman who's self-empowered and who loves her life and takes care of herself. So, here's what a lot of women do. When a nice girl, and like a people pleaser or someone who's codependent, or someone who thinks this is how to be with a man, because that's what she was taught by society, when she meets a man, it's not uncommon for her to make concessions in her life that seem relatively insignificant. She stops doing the routine, everyday things. She stops seeing friends. She stops going to a yoga class, and she stops playing tennis on weekends. She stops making time for the things she did when she was single. Here's what she does do. She cancels a hair appointment for a date with him. She stops going to the gym after work to accommodate seeing him. She stops spending time with friends to give him the feeling he is special. She cancels plans, or she doesn't make plans, because there's a chance that she'll get a call from him, or he might ask her out. She isn't focused at school. She keeps checking to see if a message came from him. She isn't focused at work. She keeps checking her email to see if she received something in her inbox from him. She gives up her career to further his career and support him. She stops having dreams outside of her relationship because her only dream is him. The bitch does not stop moving to her own rhythm. This in and of itself prevents her from becoming off balance, like a nice girl who abandons her routine. The cumulative reduction of activities eventually adds up to a significant change in who she is, and she is going to lose her independence, which will make her turn off to the guy anyway, and it'll make her feel like really unhappy and more dependent on him from the void of all the activities that she's created. And you know, I can relate to this myself. I have done little bits of that for men I was interested in, or, you know, in relationships I've been in. I've done a little bit of that myself because I thought, you know, maybe I thought that was supposed to do, or I saw that modeled among my parents when I was growing up. So this is really helpful for me too, and for all of us, that we have to maintain our self-care routine and not put another person at the center of our lives. I think a lot of that too comes from either getting too emotionally attached too quick, and there's a later chapter on that which we'll get into in another video, or if I don't give this person the attention that I think he needs, he will lose interest. I think that's where mine comes from, because my mom was codependent on my dad. So that's what I saw growing up. Like, a woman has to really give a man a lot of attention or he will lose interest. And I think that's also how my dad treated us as kids. Like, we had to reassure him. You know, our job was to reassure him. So it's really important to see where that comes from, and then to realize that the kind of interaction that maybe we see couples having on movies, or we saw with our parents, or we had with our parents, that is not the ideal for how things should be. Is to question how we relate and how we behave, is to question it. Like, where does that come from? And is this really the healthy way to relate? Or are there other ways I can relate? And it might seem a little scary at first, like if a guy texts you back, to not reply right away or cancel your class, just to give it space and to be like, oh my God, why do I feel I need to reply right away? Like, why do I think I have to reply right away? And for me, it was always like, I have to reassure the guy that I'm interested. Or if I don't reply to him, right away, he'll think I'm not interested. And if I don't reply right away, he will lose interest. And these are things, you know, because I've been kind of working on my self-awareness, that maybe you already know all this yourself too. You might have other reasons. But these are things that are not true, and that are require change. Like, oh, well, I'm just not going to reply right away, because this book is really saying you should not do that. You got to maintain your independence. So I really found this very inspiring as well. So I think, yeah, a lot of that for me came from that we were, and also another thing that happens, like with my girlfriends, I do reply right away. But with guys, especially early on, it's just better to just not reply right away because we don't know them yet. Just give a little space and see if that person's still interested. They don't lose interest when you don't reply right away. Okay. Most women are starving to receive something from a man that they need to give to themselves. A woman looks more secure in a man's eyes when he can't pull her away from her life because she's content with her life. When a relationship starts off at lightning speed, the man will at some point pull back to regain his need for space, and then the woman will be left off balance. It's then that the nice girl appears needy, trying to win back his affections. This is when she jumps through hoops. A man loses respect for a woman who needs his approval, particularly when she will overcompensate to get it. Yeah, it's like, I haven't really done anything. You don't really know me. Like, why are you doing all that? I feel that way. I have had women treat me that way, especially if I wear a little bit something more a little bit more manly, let's say, and then they just gush all over me. And I'm like, why are you gushing all over me? So I think that's kind of how men feel. A man needs to bring offerings. He needs to be on his toes a little bit. He has to make sure his shoes are tied, his pants are pulled up, and his manners are existent. When he opens car doors, when he minds his P's and Q's, and when he shows his best manners, it means she has his respect. In this way, she remains a bit of a bitch in his eyes because he has to keep himself in check. He doesn't relax in terms of how he behaves around her. As long as a woman stays in control of remaining who she is, he will need her. When a man thinks about a woman who has control over herself, he automatically thinks about her preferences and about ways to please her. Women are much more likely to cancel plans. Men don't give up boys' night out. Men don't give up their work, their sleep, or their food. Likewise, they respect a woman who will hold on to what is important to her. In the beginning, try to see him 2/3 of the time that he asks. For the remaining, you have something else going on. Don't sit at home twiddling your thumbs waiting for his call. This is not about playing hard to get. Keep it real. Force yourself to keep the routine you had before you met him. Once you lose your rhythm, you lose your psychological equilibrium and you become needy. When the nice girl jumps through hoops or bends over backward and overcompensates, she does so because she has a fantasy that he will complete her. To keep the spark from fizzling, it's sometimes best to stay ever so slightly just outside a man's reach because it charges up his batteries. The nice girl fails to take a breather because of her fantasy that he is the one or her soulmate. But this fantasy is a liability because it feeds a myopic view that he's the center of her life. Kind of related to that is the twin flame thing, which is so toxic and, in my opinion, very emotionally dangerous because it makes people glue on to this person as someone who will complete them. Like, I have half a soul, you have half of a soul, and your soul completes me. This is like super, super toxic codependency. So really, really watch out for the idea that I need this person completes me. And there's some advice later in the book about how to stop obsessing over someone. The moment the thought of that person creeps in, you focus on something else. That's so important rather than thinking about this person, obsessing about this person, getting more and more emotionally attached. is to break the cycle, to not think about this person. And it's kind of like a mind game, because sometimes people think, well, if I stop thinking about this person, I will lose them. No, you won't. You will just maintain mastery of yourself. If they want to be in your life, they'll get back in touch with you. You know, and if they don't, believe me, men keep our numbers for years. I have guys contact me now that I don't even remember who they are. They're like, hey, are you, is this still your number or whatever? Guys never delete a number. And when they're hard up or lonely or horny or whatever, they come back around. Even if you've blocked them before, they'll find you. Okay, so if some guy isn't coming after you, you don't want those guys. If, there's another whole thing I could make a video about. Why do you want guys that don't want you? And that's going to be a separate video. Let's just stick with this chapter now. The bitch is not governed by fear of losing a man. This is what you have to overcome. This is all internal stuff. Like, why am I afraid of losing this guy? The bitch is not governed by fear of losing a man because she knows the real price to pay is when she loses herself. The cumulative effect of subtle concessions is that she starts to feel depleted. She starts to feel that what he gives her is vital, and she gives up her everyday needs. She becomes drained. She works harder, believing that he'll be the one to make her feel fulfilled again. He senses that, her overcompensating, and he relaxes what he gives even more. So she works harder to jump through hoops. The cycle gets worse as she becomes more and more depleted. The solution is to lose the fantasy, and if you feel you are going to resent something after you give it, don't give it. This also goes for guys paying for women on dates. If you feel that you're going to resent something after you give it, don't give it. That includes to having sex right away or to kissing a guy who just wants a kiss. If you feel you're going to be resentful, always play it forward. If you think you're going to be resentful or sell yourself short, don't do it. Sometimes changing habits, can be super, super hard, but so important. Now, ignore what the guy says. Some guys are really good talkers. They're really good charmers, like the charm boys. You cannot fall for what a guy says. When he says, I'm spiritual, don't listen. You can even ask him, to tell you about it and see if it even makes any sense. Like if he says he goes to church, ask him what church, what he learned. Does he read the Bible? Just ask him. Look at how he acts. If he said he was spiritual, but he expects a lot of unholy compromising, let your observations be your guide. The relationship may not be right for you if you find yourself jumping through hoops. When something is right, it will feel easier and much more effortless. So this video is called Don't Jump Through Hoops. And thank you for watching. Oh, and again, if you want to be a channel member, once you subscribe, you will see the join button, and then you can see about being a channel member. And in the membership area, I discuss like a few more personal topics. I'm going to add a few stories, dating stories in there. I don't post in there every day as much as I do here, but I post things that are a little bit more personal. And also, if you want to email me with a question, just send me $50 and I'll reply to your email. Otherwise, just keep enjoying these free videos. And thank you for watching.